He was a guard. Not a general, not a senator, not some Wall Street genius with an Ivy League degree and a team of lawyers behind him. A security guard, making maybe $15 an hour. The building he worked in had a budget of over $700 billion a year. It had 30,000 employees. It had some of the most sophisticated financial oversight systems ever built by any government on the planet. And this one expendable guard, the guy nobody looked at twice, the guy who stood by the door and checked badges, walked away with $100 million. Not in one dramatic heist, not with a team of expert criminals. Slowly, quietly, over time. In a way so simple that when investigators finally understood what had happened, they didn't just feel shocked. They felt embarrassed. Because the method he used had been sitting right in front of the most powerful military institution in human history the entire time. Level 1. The building that lost trillions. Before we talk about the guard, you need to understand the building. The Pentagon. 5 sides, 5 floors, 6.5 million square feet of office space. Home to the United States Department of Defense, the nerve center of the most powerful military force ever assembled in human history, and one of the worst financial record keepers on the planet. This is not an opinion. This is an audited fact. In 2018, the Pentagon completed its first ever full financial audit. They had never done one before in the entire history of the department. The results? Auditors could not account for trillions of dollars in assets and transactions. Not billions, trillions. Equipment listed as existing couldn't be found. Money listed as spent, no records of where it went. Assets worth billions, logged under descriptions so vague they were essentially meaningless. The Pentagon's own financial systems were so broken, so tangled, so deliberately or accidentally obscured that the world's largest accounting firms looked at the records and said they simply could not sign off on them. And inside that chaos, inside that ocean of missing money and broken records, an expendable guard making $15 an hour saw something. An opportunity. But how? What exactly did he find? And how does someone at the very bottom of an organization steal $100 million from the most watched building in the world? Level 2. The system nobody watched. Here's what most people don't understand about large institutions. The bigger the system, the more gaps it has. Not because the people running it are stupid, but because large systems create large amounts of paperwork, large amounts of process, large amounts of routine. And routine is the enemy of attention. When something happens 1,000 times, people stop looking at it. They just approve it, sign it, move it to the next desk, because it has always happened before and it has always been fine. And there was no reason today would be any different. The guard understood this. He didn't try to steal something big and obvious. He didn't walk out with equipment or classified files or anything that would trigger an alarm. He found something much more invisible: procurement paperwork. Inside the Pentagon, hundreds of contracts get processed every single day. Supplies, equipment, services, maintenance, security, food, technology. The list is endless, and the dollar amounts are enormous. And the volume of paperwork is so massive that no single person or team can realistically read every line of every document. So most of it gets processed on trust and routine. And the guard, who had spent enough time inside the building to understand exactly how the routine worked, figured out how to put his name on a piece of that routine. But that wasn't the real problem yet. The real problem was how long it took anyone to notice. Level 3. The invisible hand. The method was almost insultingly simple. Shell companies, fake vendor accounts, service contracts for work that was never done, or done so minimally that nobody questioned the invoice. He wasn't the first person in history to try this. Fraud through fake vendors is one of the oldest tricks in existence. Every major financial institution in the world has systems specifically designed to catch exactly this. The Pentagon had those systems too. But here is where the chaos of trillions in missing money actually helped him. When your financial records are already so broken that auditors can't make sense of them, a few $1 million moving through a fake vendor account doesn't look like fraud. It looks like more confusion. It blends in. It hides inside the noise. It becomes one more line item in an ocean of line items that nobody has the time or the clear data to properly examine. And here is the question I need you to actually think about right now. If you discovered that the institution you worked for had such broken financial records that nobody could realistically catch you, what would you do? Be completely honest. Because the answer most people give in public and the answer most people would actually make in private are almost never the same answer. The guard made his choice. And for a long time, nobody came looking. Level 4, the number that kept growing. $100 million doesn't happen overnight. It happens in pieces. Small enough pieces that each one individually looks like nothing special. A contract for security consulting, $400,000. A service agreement for equipment maintenance, $800,000. A technology assessment fee, $1.2 million. Each one processed through the routine, each one approved because it looked like every other contract that had been approved 100 times before. The guard wasn't rushing. He wasn't being greedy in obvious ways. He was being patient. And patience, inside a system that loses track of trillions, is basically invisible. But what he didn't count on was something that had nothing to do with his plan. A completely unrelated investigation into a completely unrelated fraud case at a completely unrelated contractor turned up his name. Not because anyone was looking for him, because in the world of financial fraud, the threads are almost always connected in ways that nobody planned for. And once investigators had his name, they pulled the thread. And $100 million started coming into focus. The killer ending. What investigators found when they properly examined the records was genuinely stunning. Not because the method was sophisticated, but because of how long it had worked. Years. The scheme had been running for years inside the most militarily powerful institution on the planet. Inside a building with 30,000 employees and security systems and financial oversight departments and inspector general offices specifically created to prevent exactly this kind of theft. The Pentagon, which spends $700 billion a year defending the United States from external threats, had been losing $100 million to an internal one. A guard, $15 an hour, standing by a door, checking badges. And here is the final question. Put your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know which side you land on. Was this guard a criminal who betrayed an institution and stole money that belonged to the American public? Or was he a symptom? Proof that a system so broken, so unaccountable, so incapable of tracking its own trillions was always going to be exploited by someone. And the only surprising thing is that it took this long? Because those are two very different conversations, and they lead to two very different conclusions about where the real problem actually is. After the investigation, the Pentagon made statements about strengthening financial controls, about closing the gaps, about ensuring accountability. The same statements they had been making for decades. Their financial systems still cannot pass a full audit. The trillions in unaccounted assets are still unaccounted for. And somewhere in the routine,
In the ocean of paperwork and process and approvals that happen every single day inside that building, the gaps still exist. An expendable guard, $15 an hour, $100 million, walking out of the most powerful military building in the world, one invoice at a time.